Well, the plan to send $500 million back to Idaho taxpayers, $410 million to Idaho schools, and flatten our income tax rate to under 6% is now just one Senate vote away from going to the governor. The House passing the bill overwhelmingly just a couple of hours ago. This really hasn't been much of a surprise, though, since 35 of the 70 state representatives co-sponsored the bill. It also has the backing of 24 state senators, which is where the bill is now being debated on the Senate floor. And across the rotunda is where we find Chief Political Reporter Joe Paris. Early start today, Joe, but it seems to be coming to a close, or close to.
Yeah, it is. Over in the Senate right now, they're actually debating and discussing House Bill 1. It's already cleared a committee over on the Senate side. So really, we're 3/4 of the way through for House Bill 1 possibly passing. If you're a supporter of House Bill 1, this has been a pretty efficient day. Starting early this morning, Idaho lawmakers first met here in this State House, and they were talking about, okay, we're going to set up our day. We're going to really get organized. And then, as the morning went on, the bill started its way through committee. There was some public testimony. And then really the exciting stuff really started this afternoon when the House bill actually made it over to the floor here on the House side. So that did pass here in the House. 55-15 was the final vote. So some overwhelming support. But there was some really interesting debate in the House, and there was a lot of conversation about things that we do like, things that we don't like. Several lawmakers stood up to say that, I don't love everything that's in this bill, but I will be voting for this because I do think the bill does do some good things. I would have done it differently. Now, specifically, there were Idaho Democrats that do support this measure. They do support the idea of House Bill 1, which will send over $400 million, if passed, over $400 million to public education, as well as send rebate checks, as well as resetting the Idaho tax bracket. So income tax is at 5.8% for all Idahoans. We did hear from Idaho Representative Democrat Laura Necochea. She's a Democrat that did say that I'm going to vote for this, but I do have some issues with it. Here's what Necochea and other Dems had to say about some of the issues they see with House Bill 1 despite voting for it.
We say we're here today to address inflation, and an earlier version of this bill that was floated had an inflation adjustment so that the funds that we dedicate to education would also increase over time in the out years. It's really unfortunate that the tax pieces of this will adjust for inflation, but our commitment to kids will erode over time in this bill. That's unfortunate. Now we're moving a large majority of taxpayers into just one band, with a very smaller group that will be in that first exempt band. And it's changing what we're saying about our values. We're saying that if you are a teacher, you pay the same marginal tax rate as the CEO. And it moves us further away from ever getting back to a balance of that. And I think the balance across our types of taxes is also important. This bill reduces the income and corporate income tax rate to 5.8%, which is less than the sales tax of 6%. That means a corporation pays a lower tax rate on its profits than working class Idahoans pay for food, for diapers, for medicines, and other basic necessities.
Idaho Republicans also voted yes on House Bill 1, but they saw some issues with it as well. And there were plenty of Republicans, 15 of them, that voted no on this. And one of the things that was brought out by House Republicans was that they believed that the House Bill 1 was actually in violation of the Idaho Constitution. There's a law in Idaho that you're only supposed to have one topic per piece of legislation. Some Republicans were arguing that this bill that combines education and tax relief, they argued that this was more than one topic. Now, others argued they were wrong, saying this is about revenue or inflation. But I asked House Speaker Scott Bedke moments after they actually passed it here in the House his thoughts on if it's constitutional, as well as his general thoughts on it passing his House.
That has always been in the eye of the beholder. Careful reading of Article 3, Section 16 will say that what we did today was absolutely proper. You saw that there were objections, and it's hard for me, had I been in my chair, I would have pointed out the rest of the sentence where it says, as long as it's called out in the title, it's okay. And as like Representative Cheney said, that is settled law. We want our kids to have a good education. We want our kids to leave Idaho schools well prepared to go and pursue any career and not be at a disadvantage at the next level. That's why we fund education. We want our kids to succeed, and we want them to get a good job.
Do you think today's a success in terms of the House business?
Absolutely. I mean, we've done our job, and I think the Senate will follow suit.
So right now we are waiting to see what happens in the Senate, Brian, but it is already House Bill 1 passed the entire House committee and floor. If it does pass the floor vote on the Senate, it's essentially a done deal.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. Well, all right, you didn't really think we'd get through a House floor debate without some special sesh shenanigans, right? They were there to debate one bill, as we talked about. House Bill 1 began in the House Revenue and Taxation Committee, where it was then sent approvingly to the House floor. That was where things got a little, well, tried to get a little sideways. At one point, Representative Heather Scott from Blanchard decided to make a case against lame duck legislators making decisions, just so her objection is on the record. An objection she tried to make.
One of my first big red flags on this bill is that there's 24 non-returning legislators that are teamed with the executive branch and a lot of
Mr.
Democrats.
Speaker, a point of order. Again, I just wanted to remind everybody about Mason's Chapter 13, Section 121, Number 2, and about impugning motives.
24 non-returning legislators have teamed with the executive branch.
Gentleman from
And
21.
This sounds personal.
oh my God,
24 of us who are leaving.
So
who
the
have
gentleman is objecting to, again, back to what
The
the
same
lady
objection.
from 23 was.
this is, Mr. Speaker, this is common knowledge. This is the co-signers list that I'm talking about. I haven't said anything one way or another.
The conclusions that you draw from
I
that.
have not raised a conclusion. I'm just stating the fact that they have co-sponsored this with the executive branch. Is that not a fact?
That is a fact.
Thank
but the
you.
conclusion that you draw at that point,
I
that's where
haven't
you
drawn
run
a
into.
conclusion.
Yeah,
I
no,
haven't been
you-
able to finish.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering if I should just start back over again. Every time I get started,
didn't say
I
that.
get
Go ahead.
interrupted. So there are many good new
Gentleman
people.
from 32.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to remind the lady that
For an
I am
objection?
elected to represent the people of Legislative District 32 until the 30th day of November. Thank you.
Okay, so the gentleman, you've heard him. He's signed up clear till the end of November, and he's going
That's
to do
great.
his job. Go ahead.
That's very good. I'm so happy for that. Thank you. Okay, so back to my testimony.
She seems so happy about that. Representative Scott did eventually go on to finish her testimony with only a few more objections. But earlier in the debate, Representative Tammy Nichols from Middleton decided to stand and state her objections to the bill.
In light of what we've been hearing today, what we heard during the committee, and the emails that I'm getting from my constituents, I don't feel comfortable with voting on a bill in this manner, and I don't think many of us feel comfortable in voting on a bill in this manner.
So Nichols went on to say she wanted to send the bill back to committee, usually step one in the life of a bill, because, well, she didn't like it, and she wanted the committee to change it, except the committee already had that chance, something Representative Ron Crane rose to recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And good lady, do you serve on the germane committee that this came through this morning?
I believe the gentleman knows.
I don't. I'm trying to look it up online right now, and I haven't found it yet.
Are you on Rev and Tax?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I'm
Follow-up
ready.
question, Mr. Speaker.
Lady yield further. Will the lady yield?
No.
Lady
No,
doesn't.
no, she didn't want to yield to a question. She didn't want to answer another question because she knew what was coming next, right? And she didn't like it. How do we know this? Well, because Representative Crane, he asked the question anyway.
Was there any discussion in the committee or an attempt to send this to general orders by the germane committee?
Gentleman from 21.
There was not. There was angst expressed on these kinds of topics, but there was no discussion of sending this to the amending order.
That was Chairman Harris, the chairman of the Revenue and Tax Committee, and says, in fact, the only angst Representative Nichols expressed about the mismanagement was about the mismanagement of funds in that committee, the mismanagement of funds in education, she said, and her wish that more people could be at the State House today to, quote, be part of the process. She started with this.
And while this is, I coined the phrase breadcrumbs, while this is a small tax relief plan, I really feel that we should be doing a lot more for the people in our state and giving them the real tax relief that they need.
Well, first of all, she didn't really coin the phrase breadcrumbs because that's been long part of our lexicon since, well, bread. Secondly, you didn't exactly say anything about changing the bill while in committee during that speech. And when it came time to send House Bill 1 to the floor with a do pass recommendation.
All those in favor, please say aye. And all opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, and we will be sending House Bill 1 to the floor with a do-pass recommendation.
So did you hear the silence when asked about those opposed? Yeah, not one, not even a Nichols, which is kind of what Representative Crane was getting at on the House floor. House Bill 1 passed the House 55-15, as you heard, and is now working its way through the Senate.